Up. You can see the screen okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Good deal. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everybody. It's great to have this opportunity to speak with you and show you some a little bit of a deep dive. I'd say it's a semi deep dive into Microsoft Copilot. There will probably be some questions or some curiosities at the end here. So definitely, I would love to connect with you and discuss any of those questions that you might have to come up. So before we get rolling here, I'd like to just introduce myself. My name is Ethan Albright. I am a project manager with eImagine. I've had around 8 years in the IT consulting industry, specifically healthcare and government industries. And I'm really just passionate about, connecting business or solving problems or streamlining our workflows with the latest technology. AI being a big one. And I would consider myself quite the AI enthusiast and adopter. You can see I also have a little cartoon avatar as well. So today, just taking us through a quick little agenda here, I'm going to uh, kind of inform everybody as to what Copilot is, what kind of sets it apart from some of the other AI tools we've seen. How does Copilot really work, especially when you have the Microsoft 365 license for Copilot? Some real use cases that we are using Copilot for, even at eImagine, and some things that you guys might be able to benefit from utilizing Copilot in your organization. And then we'll go through a day in the life, kind of. I'll demo Copilot and show from a project manager, Scrum Master point of view, some of the ways that Copilot can bring a lot of value. We might run out of time right there, but if we do still have time, I'd love to show you a quick little sneak peek of Copilot Studio and what that has to offer, and then a few links to some useful training material to share with you. And then we may have time for a Q&A as well. Okay, so before we dive into what is Copilot specifically, here is an oversimplification of kind of how AI works. There's some form of an input, oftentimes in the form of a prompt. Something happens on the back end, all of that processing of data, and then we have an outcome spit out. Oftentimes that's in a conversational format. That's where you'll hear these large language models or natural language processing for it to feel like you're having a conversation when you're searching for information or reviewing documentation. And then what's really cool about AI is the adjustments it makes along the way, that consistent learning and the way it interacts with you or the way it interacts with information. It's always learning more and continue to improve. So Copilot is exactly that. It's an AI-powered assistant designed to assist users. I think it's important that we bold the word assist there because it's not replacing, entire workflows or replacing jobs. It's helping to streamline and make a lot of our daily activities more efficient or more engaging. It does that through conversational style, like we see with a lot of large language models. And on the right side, you'll see that's the chat interface. So this is a way to interact with Copilot, very similar to ChatGPT, Gemini, some of the other AIs that we've seen out there. Where Copilot really gets magical is when you have it integrated with Microsoft 365. It utilizes something called Microsoft Graph, which is kind of that connective tissue that we don't really see, but it's what connects Teams to Outlook, Outlook to SharePoint, things like security, authentication, role types. It's what keeps that all connected. And when Copilot can embrace that, it's able to look into Outlook or look into Teams conversations or Word documents that you might have access to. And it does so in a secure fashion where it adopts any of those permissions or access to documents that you have as just a user. So it's not going to go dig into things that you shouldn't be able to or find information that's private or anything like that. It's going to be a document that you'd be able to click around and find with your basic permissions to begin with. So to highlight some of like the real use cases that we're using, even at eImagine, and I would call these like the easy wins are kind of improvements to our daily tasks. I'm calling them daily efficiencies. So like communication, really all the AIs assist in this realm with drafting an email, summarizing an email. I'm sure a lot of us here have been tagged on that email chain that's 47 emails long and you get the FYI. Well, it can summarize that entire email chain for you. Research, looking for that document or maybe that email that you remember receiving a few months ago, but you can't really find it. You can utilize Copilot to say, hey, I remember I got an email about this topic. What did we decide on that? For meetings, having it turned on while in a Teams meeting, you can ask questions if you join the meeting late to catch yourself up. Or afterwards, you can generate meeting notes or follow-up actions, all because Copilot's in the background listening to those meetings. Beyond daily efficiencies, you also have kind of large process improvements. I know we've probably had a couple demonstrations of how it can assist with the business analysis process, generating user stories or requirements, even taking it a step further and generating test cases, and doing that all based on a recorded meeting or a transcript from a meeting in a combination with notes and maybe some legacy documentation for the system. From like an HR perspective, you can utilize Copilot to create a more connected and continuous feedback loop. And we'll talk a little bit more about that if we get a chance to talk about Copilot Studio. And then from a software development standpoint, this is what we're looking at in the very near future. Some kind of groundbreaking technologies where AI is going to help us develop and create code. I think that's we're very close to that being kind of the standard nowadays. So aside from those use cases, I'd like to take you through a day in the life using Copilot. And for this, we're going to pretend that, we're a Scrum Master. This is our little smiley face person here. We'll pretend that we're working on this theoretical project called Patient Portal. Maybe we're working in the healthcare industry. And for this case, we'll say we use Copilot on a daily basis. So we're fully embracing the use of Copilot. And on top of that, as we go through this day in the life, I'm going to keep kind of a cumulative running counter of how much time we've spent inside a Copilot versus the average amount of time it would take to do these same tasks outside or without Copilot. So to get started here, let's pretend we just had a meeting with our client stakeholders, and it was a sprint demo for sprint 5 of our development phase. The way Teams works with Copilot is it's all based on the transcript. So when you start Copilot in a Teams meeting, it will basically just say a message that this meeting is being transcribed. Obviously, we are in a Zoom meeting right now, so to help kind of simulate this day in the life, I have right here an AI generated transcript. So this is just basically simulated a Sprint 5 demo with a client, 5 people on the call, and it's really just who said what and what did they say. I'm going to take this transcript, and I'm going to put it into Copilot here. This is the chat interface through Copilot. And I got a prompt saved here just to save us some time. And all I'm asking is create meeting notes from the meeting transcript that details the requirements, what was demoed, initial client feedback, and any next steps that were identified. And I can go ahead and call out to this file. Whoops. Instead of that hotkey, I'm just going to go ahead and drag this file into here. And what it's going to do is just review that file and take it from being a transcript into more of a meeting notes format. What's powerful about this is you can toss this into an email and send it out with action items if it's a different kind of meeting. But for this case, it's just taking our sprint demo transcript and putting it into meeting notes format. So I like the way that looks. Looks like it's captured everything I wanted it to. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to come over to a new Word document because I want to save this off just for future reference in case I need it. And this is where all AI is really good at kind of getting us 80% of the way there. This covers a majority of what I'm looking for when I want to grab meeting notes from a meeting. But you can see I've got some extra jargon here that the AI was mentioning. I think there's a follow-up question down here. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe that out. So now I have a meeting notes document generated from my Teams meeting. Let's go ahead and save that out. We'll call it, I'm going to put AI in front of this just for easy reference. AI Sprint 5 meeting notes, and we'll save that out. Okay, so hopping back over to our presentation here. That took us definitely less than 5 minutes, but just let's call it 5 minutes to basically generate our meeting notes from our Teams meeting using Copilot. That could take upwards of 20 minutes if you were to do that manually. Not to mention, in this simulated Teams meeting, I was able to participate in the meeting, hands off the keyboard, not having to take notes along the way. This was all generated with just a transcript. So let's take that a step further. And now we're going to hop into Word and we're going to take those meeting notes and have it create the official sign-off document that I'm going to send to my stakeholders to have them approve these requirements that we delivered in the sprint. So in order to do that, I'm going to open up another Word document here. And at the top here, I'm going to use the Copilot window here. Whoops. Let me pull that back up. And here's my prompt. Create a cleanly formatted sign-off document that includes an explanation of what this sign-off document is, a bulleted list of what was delivered this sprint, and include a section at the bottom for signature and date. And then utilize the following file. So there's the file I just created, and it's going to reference the meeting notes file and generate a cleanly formatted sign-off document. Now, what's powerful here is if you guys ever create templates or anything like that, it will plug in and adopt the style of a template that may already exist. Because oftentimes there will be, company headers, things like that. But taking a look here, it looks like, okay, it's got the purpose of the document serves as a formal acknowledgement and approval of the deliverables completed during Sprint 5 of the patient portal project. It's got the requirement numbers, the title of the requirement, even a little bit of, what that requirement entailed. Overall, I'd say this looks great. I could refine this if I wanted to say, make it more formal, make it more informal, shorten it. For this case, I'm just going to go ahead and say we're going to keep it how it is. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to save this off, and we'll call it Sprint 5 sign off. And now I have my sign off document created. So we'll hop back into our presentation here. And I went ahead and said, pretend, we had some formatting that we wanted to change, or we wanted to apply our company's branding. So let's say it took us 15 minutes to officially polish up that sign-off document that we want to send out. That could take upwards of 50 minutes without Copilot. I think, sometimes depending on the size of the sprint or the complexity of the information, it could take even more than 50 minutes. So we're already starting to see some of the value that's created using Copilot within these Office tools. So let's take it a next step further. I happen to have some simulated test case data in a spreadsheet, and I think it might be nice to support that sign off with some testing results. So let's hop back into our sprint sign off, and maybe right here before the sign off agreement, I'm going to add an area called test results. Now you saw when I started this from a blank document, I had a Copilot window at the top. That's for me to really start fresh with a document. I also have in the toolbar up top, my Copilot more of an assistant Copilot. It could summarize a document for me. It could help pull out a specific section from this document. But what I'm going to do is using the prompt over here, I'm going to ask, create a table that includes the total number of requirements tested, test cases executed, and total defects found, and use the data attached, or in this attached spreadsheet. So now I'll put test cases, and I have Sprint 5 test cases. That was the simulated test cases document I created. So now, because I'm all within that Microsoft Graph bubble, it's able to go and look over at my Excel spreadsheet and then sum up all those lines into a cleanly formatted table. Again, you'll see here, this is where that 80% mark comes in. Not very pretty. It's got a black background or kind of a dark gray background. So I'm just going to highlight that table design and just give it more of a clean cut. And maybe I want to enter down a few times, move it on to a different page. And then also maybe I'll make this an official section for test results. And boom, now I've supported my sign-off documentation with data that I had in an associated spreadsheet in Excel. Hopping back into our slide here. So let's say that took me 10 minutes. Maybe there was some review of the data I wanted to do ahead of time, ensure things were cleanly formatted. But overall, we spent a total of 30 minutes in Copilot, theoretically. That could take, maybe 30 minutes for me to do that same thing without Copilot. So we're already well over an hour and a half going through these same tasks, not using Copilot. Let's take it a step further. We're going to compose an email basically requesting this sign off. And this is often probably some demos that you guys have seen in the past where you just basically ask Copilot to draft an email. So I've got a prompt over here. I'm going to use this little inline Copilot option. And all this is going to do is draft an email letting the client know that the sign-off document for Sprint 5 is ready for their approval. Include that we're excited to meet them to review and that the sign-off document is attached. This is something that you could definitely do in ChatGPT, Gemini, any of the other AI tools, but it's nice to be kind of all on the same bubble here. So already right off the bat, I can say that's a lot of words for just asking for a sign off. So let's just say, go ahead and make it shorter. We don't need all the fluff in there. Okay, perfect. One short, sweet line. Hope this email finds you well. Sprint 5 sign off documents ready for review and approval. Attached, you'll find the document out detailing our progress, key achievements. Your feedback is crucial. Let's take this a step further. I think maybe this client is hesitant to officially give sign-offs. So I'm going to say include a gentle but firm push that we would really like everyone to attend the review meeting so we can ensure sign-off is received. Kind of adding that crafty wordsmithing, really just wanting to make sure people show up. So you can see here it's added, we would appreciate if everyone could attend the review meeting to ensure the sign-off is received and we can proceed smoothly. Okay, perfect. Whoops. So I'll go ahead and say keep it. And you can see there's still some adjustments here. I could have included so-and-so's name, whoever the client may be, in my initial prompt. That's why we have a placeholder here. But maybe I'm, messing around a little bit more. I've already got my name written once, so I'm just going to erase that. But overall, I'd say this email is good to go.
And if they don't like the tone of the email, you can say, well, I'm sorry, AI wrote it, right?
That's right. You could. That is for sure. But overall, let's say, it took us 5 minutes to, add those small formatting tweaks or maybe adjust the tone a little bit. But I don't know about you guys, sometimes crafting or wordsmithing that perfect email to a client can take upwards of 20 minutes, maybe even more, really trying to get that message across. So the highlight there is just that using AI to help with the wordsmithing or at least getting you started, that first 80% is going to be a big time saver. I think you guessed it. Let's take it even one step further. Now let's get ready for that meeting with the client. We're going to create our PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to open up a new, fresh PowerPoint here. And all I'm going to do is open up this little Copilot icon here. And of course, I have my prompt here for us to plug in. And I'm going to say, create a presentation from Sprint 5 sign-off document and include an agenda, requirements delivered this sprint, testing results, a section explaining what sign-off means and what next steps entail. And then use the following document. And I'm going to add in what we created with, I actually think I added, yep, here it is, AI Sprint 5 sign-off. Okay, good deal. So this is kind of in our it's still cooking phase. So I'm seeing basically what slides it's going to create, really just the topic. It's got a purpose of the sign-off document slide. It's got some details on the requirements that were delivered, overall testing results, and then an explanation as to what sign-off means, and then next steps. I'd be able to add in additional placeholder slides if I wanted to have another topic added there, or I could just completely delete out a section. Let's go ahead and have it generate these slides. And again, similar to creating a Word document, if you have a template that has placeholder text for different, areas of a presentation or some kind of, styling for your organization, having those templates ready, Copilot will just plug into that rather than overriding it. So it's going to take some of its own initiative here to create the design of the document. But again, we're getting that 80% there. Okay. Good deal. So let's take a look. We've got a title slide looking good. Maybe I'd come in here and adjust the title a little bit, pull it all onto one or a couple lines. We can see the agenda. Okay, good deal. We get down to what is the purpose of the sign-off document, serves as formal acknowledgement, deliverables were completed. Looks good. Next steps for development. Move further in development. Okay, good deal. Starts to review the actual requirements we delivered. Again, all based on that transcript we started with, which is really just a meeting where we talked about and demoed those completed items. Then we get down into testing results. I see it's incorporated the table that I included in my sign-off document, explains what sign-off is. It's even added these title slides, which are really nice sometimes for a presentation. And then ultimately conclusion. I'd say, okay, that sounds great. I'm going to use that for my review with the client. So overall, let's pretend we had some more adjustments there that we were making, adjusting the font type or applying some of our branding. It took us 10 minutes to create that slide presentation. could take us upwards of 30 minutes without Copilot. So overall, we're already seeing, again, the major time savings here. So in recap, it took us about 45 minutes theoretically to use Copilot and create, starting from a transcript all the way through to creating that sign-off documentation, and then also creating the presentation to then share with the client. Overall, that's about a 70% time savings, or over 3 times more productive. So really powerful, showing how it's not just, oh, you can use Copilot inside of a PowerPoint, or oh, you can use it more. You can use it with all those things connected together, and really streamline a lot of our kind of daily activities. So that's a day in the life using Copilot. We do have some time here, so I'd love to dive into Copilot Studio here. It's very similar if anybody's a ChatGPT user. It's similar to creating custom GPTs, or I know Gemini with Google has kind of a similar playground where you can customize basically the behavior, the instructions, and even kind of the sources of knowledge that these agents, as Copilot calls them, as they use. So Copilot Studio, it's a low code tool. What's really cool, similar to ChatGPT, is you use Copilot to create Copilot agents. So it's all based in a conversational format of what you want this agent to do. Um, the custom AI agents can be tailored around processes, so it can really streamline workflows or automate kind of routine tasks. Multi-channel support, so you can deploy these agents to different areas, whether it be embedded on a website, or what can be really value is embedded into Teams, Microsoft Teams, almost like a chat bot that you could interact with for, something specific to the business. And then again, automating any kind of repetitive tasks, whether it's like when a certain event happens, it creates these documents. Maybe it's onboarding, so-and-so's onboarding, create all of these documents for them. It can quickly automate those kind of tasks. When we get into knowledge sources, this is where Copilot, creating a custom AI of any sort can become really powerful. The knowledge source is the information that the AI is going to reference when it's providing any kind of answers or insights. So when identifying that knowledge source, it's important to really think about, what is all the information I want it to take into account? Maybe even what information do I not want it to look at? So you can actually define these knowledge sources and cut off the internet from it. So it's strictly working only on project documentation. You could create something like a project advisor that, searches through tons and tons of documents. Adding those knowledge sources is super easy through the Copilot Studio. Maybe in a future session we can dive into that and build an agent together. And then it's important to manage those knowledge sources. ChatGPT has a great a function to where you can just upload documents as you're chatting with it. With the knowledge source connected within the Microsoft 365 bubble, you can point it to live, living SharePoint locations or folders. So therefore, it's always looking at the most relevant information. If documents are updated or a new document is added, it's always maintaining that kind of live knowledge source, as opposed to static documents at a specific point in time. That information could quickly become stale. So some quick kind of examples as to where this can become valuable is support chatbots. Kind of that first line of defense in front of a help desk to link users to knowledge base articles or training material, and do so in a conversational format. Data analytics tools, you can give it specific sources of data, specific things to prioritize, or specific ways to look at data. I'm sure we all have custom acronyms that Copilot or AI is not going to understand without giving it that instruction or defining it for it. Document automation, we talked about that a minute ago with certain events may happen that trigger those routine documents that we create. Updating slide decks, things like that. You can create a custom agent specifically around that. And then sales analysis, you can have another companion at the table help find those insights or help style that information that you want to share back when working in sales or finding the next sale. So that's Copilot Studio. I know it was a very short kind of dive into what it has to offer. But one thing about these tools is they are ever changing and changing at an increasing pace. So one of the main things that I would recommend is just kind of being somewhat aware or in tune with what these tools are doing, because they're only going to get better and better. I often use a saying that right now is kind of the worst it's ever going to be. it's only going to get better from here. It's only going to get, improve. So hopping on the train and kind of figuring out how it works is only going to set us up for success when it does get better and better and new tools come out. So to help with that, everything I've really learned about Copilot has definitely been one, trial and error, and two, learning through Microsoft. I don't know if anybody here's ever hopped on Microsoft Learn, but there's a lot of good kind of curriculum and organized information on there. Anything from starting a training path, which is more structured, some of those larger modules, hour and a half, they'll have knowledge checks along the way. But one thing that I specifically really like were Microsoft Learn challenges. And this is kind of that approach in micro learning or mini trainings to where you challenge yourself over the course of 30 days or so to learn just a little bit of something about Copilot on a daily basis. Little 4 to 6 minute training modules to where it's just a tip or a trick, but kind of gets the gears turning and thinking, where could I plug Copilot into my day-to-day basis or my daily workflows? And then I think it's once you take one training or something on Microsoft Learn, or maybe if you officially sign up for an account, you'll start to get these links to free live training sessions. And what's really cool is they'll be based around a specific subject area. So it might be an hour-long session for Copilot for sales or Copilot for business analysis. And oftentimes you'll find those on YouTube as well. So it's nice to see people demo in real time or hear someone's kind of own perspective when they've used these kind of tools. So I know we moved pretty quickly through that, but I think we might have some time if there are any questions or curiosities. Be happy to answer.
Yeah, we have some in the chat, Ethan. So let's see, oh, this was at 6:24. How do you add that extension within emails? I'm assuming that means the link that you would put in that referenced
Let me pull the
whatever
chat.
document you were pulling from.
How do we add the extension within emails?
They may be talking about the oh my God, the Copilot extension up to the right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so in here, so free kind of to the public is a version of chat with Copilot, and that's what you see here. In order to embed Copilot or use Copilot across all your Microsoft 365 apps, require an elevated license being called Microsoft 365 Copilot. So unfortunately, without that license, it's not going to be embedded into those tools. You would just use it through a chat interface like so. Next, what most I use too many words. Express and robotic expanded it. Studio firewall proprietary and or sensitive information from the rest of the world. Great question. On that, and I would want to fact check myself here, but what I do know from like a chat GPT realm, a certain level of licenses, and I'm pretty sure Copilot's the same way. When you have those paid licenses, they state that your conversations or your information is not going to be used to improve other conversations with AI. So the public facing AI, if you use Copilot, just the public facing, ChatGPT, the public facing, I think even the base plus version of ChatGPT, all of those conversations you have are kind of used to improve the overall AI performance. When you have these certain level of licenses, you basically own your data, and those conversations are not being used to improve beyond your organization. I think there is some use to improve it to your specific instance of Copilot, but I would definitely want to fact check on that. Good question, Greg. That is usually you can easily point to only internal specific data sources. That was one of the early crutches of AI. You never really know where it was pulling information from and exposing your information to. Absolutely. I think one of the big things there too is the cutting off of the internet, because we've had Copilot and ChatGPT kind of hallucinate, as some have maybe heard. AI hallucination is where it just makes up information out of thin air or it pulls it from some other source that was completely irrelevant. And I think that also shines light on that 80% mark. That extra 20% is also peer review. Always review anything that's output from AI. Never copy and paste it all without a thorough review to ensure it's accurate, truthful, and even talking about what you want it to be talking about. I was in an oncologist last night where the lady did a head-to-head compare between the paid version of ChatGPT and Copilot, and the results were that for certain types of prompts, one AI did a bit better than the other. They are doing more research as to which prompt types worked better for which AI. Great call out. And I would absolutely say that is something to keep in mind no matter what moving forward kind of indefinitely, is to always be considering all the other tools. Copilot has its superpowers, but ChatGPT absolutely has even better superpowers in certain areas. One example that we trialed very similar to what was referred to there is business analysis and writing requirements. Really getting down to the nitty gritty detail of what was stated in other documents, stated in meetings or transcripts. And ChatGPT far outshine Copilot. I think some rough data off the top of the head. It was like 42 requirements were created in ChatGPT. Copilot only created like 20. And the reason was ChatGPT just went a couple layers deeper. It took the initiative of going ahead and categorizing into functionality type, but ChatGPT was unable to summarize my Outlook inbox or help me prepare for the meetings for the day or find that one Teams conversation that I had 6 months ago and we made a decision on. So that's where there's kind of a special combo there, where you use Copilot for all of your admin, Teams meeting recordings, things like that, but you use GPT for the in-depth analysis of all that information to really dig deeper. I would assume if your company is more married to Google Docs, Gmail, that you would absolutely. So I know some other people, it's called G Suite. That's kind of the equivalent of Microsoft Office. That's where you use things like Google Docs, Google Slides, Google, I think it's called Charts or Numbers, maybe for their like Excel equivalent. Gmail, Gemini would be the Copilot equivalent and probably has its own kind of superpowers in that realm as well. Does Copilot have any certifications for government use that meet the security standards for government type environments? Another great question. I know when you explore some of the elevated license types with ChatGPT, they will say that it comes with this kind of security certification. There were a handful with like the enterprise level of ChatGPT. Not entirely sure what those certifications mean from a government perspective. But as we think about, the use of AI in projects for our clients, or we look at the use of AI and promoting it for our clients to use, I think Copilot's one of those easier to digest kind of tools because, oh, it's just an additional Microsoft tool I'm turning on. Or it's, I already have Microsoft, I already trust Microsoft with all of my data, and it adopts a lot of that same authentication and security. So I think that's a great question, Greg, and kind of digging a little further in what actual certifications for government would they have?
Yeah, from what I've seen lately, you can use just about any chat application you want in the government, right? So
until you hear otherwise.
yeah, and that's not political. That was just me being a wiseacre. So, but you're right in the sense that Copilot, because it's Microsoft and they've integrated it in Office 365, it's an enterprise-based application that not only integrates into their Office product, but more importantly, on the back end, it's managed the same way that you manage Office and Word and Outlook and updates to your desktop and everything. So it's really attractive for enterprises, and the authentication or the single sign-on aspect of it makes it very, very attractive.
Absolutely. And that's that yeah, great call out, Joe. The Microsoft Graph. So a big portion of that are groups, it's a lot of these are tools, but it's all the authentication and security behind it. So you're ensuring that, hey, this isn't granting any additional access. It's just using what already is there, what we've already managed, and it manages it accordingly. So if you make
you
any
just click a
updates
button and assign well, of course, someone's got to write a check, right? So, but yeah. And if you don't mind, Ethan, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to talk so much,
No.
but so we were talking about comparisons between OpenAI and Copilot, and I think one of the bigger things is that Copilot is more of an assistant, like you said, to tell you how's my day going, where am I going to go. It can look through all the Office products. Well, OpenAI is more of a generative AI interface. Microsoft has that through Azure AI, which is basically OpenAI, right? And
Yep.
so if you wanted to have something more specific, like the stuff that I did last month, you could do the exact same thing in Azure AI as what I had, is the example that I had given.
Mhm.
So it's kind of two different products, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, under the hood, Copilot is
Is
the
OpenAI.
model it's built on. It's OpenAI or ChatGPT, and some of the hindrances or the lack of its ability is